Hey everybody, welcome to the fast button tutorial on the 2022 Toyota RAV4 XLE Hybrid. And in my fast tutorial videos, we're going to start from left to right and we're going to go over all the buttons on the car. And this is going to act as a supplement towards your user manual. So let's begin. So first things first, to start the car, you push the brake and you push the push start button to start the engine up. Onto the door card, I have auto down windows and auto up windows all around. So with a simple hard push, they go down hands-free, and with a simple hard pull, they come up. We have a window lock here, so by pushing this, I get a green light to confirm that the windows are locked. And then the door locks are right next to that with two little nubs so that I don't have to look down and I can feel that that's the lock button there. Same thing on the fob. Next to that, if I push the little L, I can toggle the left mirror. If I push the R, I can toggle the right mirror, but if I gently push, it goes into a neutral position so that this doesn't change any mirrors. On the driver's side of the dash, I have a couple buttons here. The first button being the brightness adjustment to the gauges that has a locking position so I can keep it in that position or it gets darker as you go down. Next to that, I can activate the auto high beams, and if the car was equipped with the weather package, I would also have a button for the heated steering wheel and a separate button for the defrosting wiper blades. On the right side of this row, I have a button for the opening hatchback, which is height adjustable, which we will get into later. A simple push and hold will open it. You can stop it short with a quick push and push and hold to close it again. Down below, I have a separate button to unlock the locking gas cap, which is on the driver's side, and a lever for the hood latch. On the side of the steering wheel, I have a lever that I can pull down and I can telescope the steering wheel and raise and lower it. On the left side of the steering wheel, I have a separate stalk here for daytime running lights off, automatic headlights, parking lights, and headlights manually here. Most people leave them in auto. On the right side of the stalk, I have the adjustments for the wipers. So if I click it down once, it's intermittent, and I can actually change the intermittency level while it's an intermittent. Then click down again for low, click down again for high. The section over here is for the rear wiper. Let me get a good view here. Intermittent once in a while and on back and forth. No adjustment for the intermittency here. And above, if I pull this towards me, it'll wash the front windshield, and if I push it away, it'll wash the back windshield. Buttons on the steering wheel. On the left side of the steering wheel, I have these arrows here with an OK and back button, which are actually going to operate the MID, which is a little helper screen that we call the multi-information display. Underneath that, I have a phone button, which will answer and hang up phone calls when I'm connected to Bluetooth. Underneath, I have a volume control, which can control the volume to the radio as well as those phone calls, and the voice command button, which I can train the car, we'll get into later, I can train the car to recognize my voice. When connected to Apple CarPlay, if you press and hold this, the little Siri orb will pop up on the Infotainment Center, and I can do Siri commands, but if I push it quick, it'll be the Toyota Infotainment System. On the right side of the steering wheel, it's mainly going to be my cruise control with lane departure alert and a little bit of music. So this whole round pad here is actually going to activate the cruise control, and I can change the following distance. To set the cruise control, I just push the little radar button here with the car and hit down for set, and I can increase or decrease the speed here. However, if I press and hold this button, the image shown on the MID will take the car away and put the arrow on the left for a constant speed cruise control like it used to be. To cancel the cruise control, I push this or press the brake, and there's 3 sensitivity levels right there. Lane departure alert is right here with a simple push of a button. The music buttons are only these 2 down below. I can go back and forth between songs, and I have a mode which will go between my different audio modes, but if I press and hold, it will actually mute the music and pause it. On the gauge cluster, I have my power gauge here on the left, and there's a little stalk right over here where if I push, we'll go between, on the bottom of the screen, the odometer and 2 different trips. I can see the engine temperature down below, and the green ready symbol is going to mean that the car is ready to drive. So you might not necessarily hear the engine. That's what you look for when you start the car. BSM means that the blind spot monitor is active, which is the little orange light on the mirror to let me know somebody's in my blind spot. And on the right, on the bottom there, I have my fuel level, which there's a little arrow next to the symbol to let me know that my locking gas cap is on the driver's side, and the analog speed. Park just means the parking brake is on, which is now an electronic parking brake, and it's showing I don't have my seatbelt on. But next up is the MID. With the MID, I can see some important information by using those arrows on the steering wheel. I have some menus on the top. I have the Eco menu, navigation, car information, settings, and warnings. So back to the little leaf symbol. I can even go up and down to see different information about my gas mileage and my digital speed with distance to empty. If I go over 1, it'll show me what my safety sense system is doing and will show me what road I'm driving on while I'm driving. The information is going to give me my total trip distance and time that I've been driving. I have a quick view of the hybrid system to show me if the engine's on, where the power is going, and where the power is coming from. And I can even see individual tire pressure once I'm up and running. Underneath that is one of my favorite screens, the all-wheel drive control. You can see how much power each wheel is getting. Next to settings, so when I go into the settings menu, I can change and customize all of the safety settings in the car. So I have to press and hold the OK button. And here's where I can change things like the lane center for when I'm using the lane trace assist, steering assist, sensitivity. I can make it more or less sensitive, and the sway warning for if the car thinks I'm getting sleepy. I push the back button on the steering wheel and I can go down to pre-collision system, press and hold OK, and I can change the sensitivity or turn it off. Down to blind spot monitor, if I press and hold OK, I can change the brightness to those bulbs on the mirrors and change the sensitivity, which is really nice. Rear cross traffic alert, pressing and hold the OK. Doesn't open any menu. I can just turn it on or off. There's no settings for rear cross traffic alert. If I turn it off, I get the little yellow symbol, but rear cross traffic alert will beep when it senses movement when I'm in reverse. Good feature to leave on. Road sign assist, same thing here. I can change the settings here. And in vehicle settings, this is where I can change my opening adjustment to 5 different levels. I can even change the volume. And back here, this is going to stay lit up orange if the car senses it needs any service, or if there's something that it sensed that it needs that's more urgent, or if you're simply driving without your seatbelt on. A simple view of the MID will show you the top left has your outside temperature, top right is going to be the time, bottom left is going to be what gear you're in, so you don't have to even look down at your shifter, and your total miles. Buttons by the shifter. So when I take the car out of park, the automatic parking brake will actually release on its own. When I put it back into park, it re-engages. The button right next to the parking brake is the parking hold feature, which you have to be buckled up for, but if you push the button, you'll get 2 little lights. You're going to get the green light, meaning that the feature is on, and then underneath you get the gold one, which means it's active. So that means while I'm in drive, I can actually give it a little bit of gas, and you'll see the gold is going to disappear, and the car moves a little bit. And once I come to a stop, the gold will pop back up, and I can take my foot right off the brake. Great for city driving and the drive-through. One thing to realize though, that this feature does not work when you're in reverse, which makes sense because once you give it gas, you might not remember what gear you're in. It only works when you're in drive. Speaking of drive, if I go down into drive and shift over once, I go into shift mode. And on the MID, you'll actually see a simulation when I toggle forward and toggle back what different gears I would be in. That's going to really help you control the revs while you're driving and maximize your control over the car. Pushing trail mode is actually going to give me a little rock design on the MID on the top and bottom, and it's going to change the way the all-wheel drive system handles to enhance my grip on the trails. I have a multi-drive mode here, so if I twist it counterclockwise, I'll go into eco mode. If I push it down, it goes back to normal. And if I twist it to the right, I'll go into sport. You can see this reflect on the MID with a little badge on the top and color. So if I twist it counterclockwise to eco, it says eco on the top and everything goes green. If I push it down, it goes to normal with no colors, but if I turn it to the right, it gives me red for that power. Once the hybrid battery is charged 75% or more, I can push the EV mode, which will actually favor the vehicle keeping the engine off, making you an electric vehicle. And remember, to get a glance at how charged my battery is, I can use the arrows on the steering wheel to go over to the vehicle information page and scroll down to my hybrid overview, showing me that the battery is indeed charged enough. Underneath the climate control and near the shifter is a button that'll turn off your traction control and your vehicle stability control, giving you the ultimate ability for wheel slip when you're in some treacherous terrain. With a total of 5 USB plugs, I have a USB-A and a 12-volt plug in the front with a separate door to keep the moisture and dirt out. Opening up the center console with a little button in the middle will reveal 2 of those 5 USB plugs here, and these light up at nighttime. And then in the back I have an operation for my ventilation system and 2 additional USB-Cs. Back to the front on the climate control, I can do a separate temperature for the passenger, an entirely different temperature for the driver, but if I want to synchronize them, I push the button here on the right and I can control the whole car with my knob. If I want to turn the system off, I have a dedicated off button right closest to the driver, and to resume, I just push the fan speed up a little bit. If I want this climate control to mimic the central air at my house, I can hit auto, and it'll actually do what it needs to do to set it to that temperature. And when the weather's hot, I can push the AC with the recirculate button, which are right next to each other. A couple different ways I can manipulate the system. I can actually prioritize the front here and kick off the rear climate, or turn on the rear climate like that. When I put the car into Eco Heat and Cool will actually turn on, or I can do it manually like this. What Eco Heat and Cool does is it makes it a little more modest, so the heat is not as hot and the AC is not as cool. But of course I have the front and rear defrost right next to each other. Air direction is going to be right over here. I can change that on the fly with my fan speed right next to it. Moving on up from the climate control, I have a big square button for the hazards, and when I push that, I'm going to have my flashers for the emergencies, or if I need to raise people's awareness. We will save the screen for last, so moving on up above the screen. On this car, I have a simple flip switch rear view mirror, and up above, I have my sunglass case. So when I push this, I have a felt backing here so I can put the sunglasses lenses in. On both sides of the SOS button, I have operation of the moonroof, so I can ventilate it up and down like so, or I can do a one-touch open. And fun fact, when a Toyota moonroof is open all the way, it's not technically open all the way. There's a little bit left. Individually powered lights here are now upgraded to LED on 2022s and up, and I can set it so that the lights come on with the door, or I can turn them all on at once. And do not forget the best button of all, your Safety Connect button here with the SOS system. When you buy your new Toyota, download the Toyota app and create your account, because for 1 year unlimited miles, you have access to this wonderful emergency service. And up above for the sunshades, I do have a separate LED light for the mirror here. And when I tilt it over to the side, I have a slide out piece of plastic for when the sun gets in that awkward spot. Couple other things before the screen. When your seats are folded down, if they're not folded down all the way, you get this little thermometer to let you know. This is what you look like in the proper and safest position. Of course, you can recline it by pulling up that lever and pushing it back a little bit. Behind both of the rear doors, you have child locks located right here on the right side of the door card with a little symbol to let you know that you push this down to do the child lock. That means if you pull on the handle here, you'll be able to open it up on your own, but they won't be able to open it by pulling on theirs. Since this has the convenience package, it has the height adjustable liftgate, which means the button is going to be just right of center underneath, and it opens up on its own. We no longer have a button for you to manually turn on that trunk light. It's actually going to come on every time you open it up. You can also close the hatchback just like you can open it from the key fob, the door, or on the dashboard. So the button to close it hands on is going to be right here. And working our way back into the car, don't forget to always lock your floor mats to the floor so that they don't slide under your brake pedal. On the infotainment system, I have 4 hard buttons on each of the sides with a scrolling knob, one for the power and volume on the left, one for tuning and scrolling through the different stations, but it's also a touch screen. And before we dive in, a fun fact that'll help you get used to the screen is, on the top left of the screen, it'll tell you what menu you're in. So for instance, if I hit audio, it says audio here. If I go home, it says home. If I go to menu, it says menu. So it's very easy to know where you're going, and it'll prevent you from getting lost. And speaking of the screen, if this car had the Audio Plus package, it would upgrade it from the 7-inch screen to the 9-inch screen, whereas for 2021, it would have only upgraded you to an 8-inch screen. This one being the 7-inch. Starting with the home button. When I push the home button, here's my home screen here. I can actually change the way this is displayed, but it shows me different information that I'm choosing to show to see everything at a glance. If I choose to push one of the little widgets on my home screen, it'll actually take over the entire screen. Menu is somewhere that you're going to spend a lot of time, because here's where you can change some of your settings. Menu also lets you access different apps here, which we'll get into in a few minutes. Since there's already a button for audio, we can skip that because we're going there. And since there's already a button for the phone, we can skip this one because we're going to be headed there soon. And since there's a separate button for the apps, we're going to skip that as well. But let's go to info. When I go to Info, I can select Eco, and I can see an energy monitor showing you what the hybrid system is doing. So this being a hybrid Toyota, it's showing me that the engine is off because there's no red arrows going to MG1, the motor, and it's powering from the battery. Now the cool part is, the battery is not powering the car because we're not driving, but when you're driving, it'll actually show green arrows and yellow arrows powering here. When it collects energy from the brakes, you're going to see green arrows going in this direction, and if the energy is coming from the engine, it's going to go from red to green. If I push trip information, it's going to show me some averages during my drive, which is not going to be very accurate right now because the car is new and hasn't been driven for a few weeks. But if I go back to energy, it shows me the diagram, and history is going to show me how I've been doing over time. Also in the information page, which is menu, info, we went over eco. Now we can do vehicle alert history, which will show me different warning notifications stored in a file. Going back to menu, something that people ask about a lot is how do I change the clock? So if I go to setup, which is in my menu, I can change the clock right over here. Since we're already in the setup page, I can even change the language. I can change projection settings. I can customize the home screen. I can even change the layout to a 4-page layout. I can alter some of the things it shows, but most people like the 3, so I'm going to switch it back to this. If the beeping annoys you, you can turn the beep off, and something that's very useful is I can actually change the color theme. So say I wanted something a little more sporty, I can change it on the fly. And another nice thing about the menu is that if I hit display, I can turn the screen off while listening to music so I don't have all that bright light in my face while driving at night. To reactivate the screen, I can hit any of the buttons on the side, and it's going to reactivate the screen, and I'm actually going to change the color back to what it was to make things a little more visible during the day. Back in my setup app, if I scroll down, I have a couple more advanced settings, which I suggest you leave the way they are. But you can find your software updates right over here. Every once in a while, the car does need a software update. It may alert you, but you can always check right here. On the other side of the setup screen, if I go to Bluetooth, I can pair my device and go over some Bluetooth settings. I can even change some settings in my audio system, some phone settings when I'm connected, nothing crazy. But here is where I can do the voice recognition training. There are some advanced settings which I do recommend you leave the way they are, but as you can see by the screen, you can change some things like the voice volume, which might be interesting to you, and training it to learn your voice. One thing to keep in mind when you do voice commands on the Toyota interface, you do have to say and pronounce things precisely the way they are stored in your phone. If I push the down arrow here on the left again, I unlock another area where I can do my vehicle customization, which is one that's important to a lot of people because I can change my door lock settings. So say you don't like the car unlocking when you put it in park, you can turn that off right over here. Also very useful in the door lock settings is changing the way the smart key works. So most cars, when they come from the factory, when you grab the driver door handle, it's only going to unlock your door as a security measure. But if you wanted to unlock all 4 doors, you can change it right here. I can even change how loud it is, letting me know that the door has been unlocked, and I can change if the lights are on or off when it's unlocked, and I can change the relock timer for it to lock a little sooner. By pushing the back button, I can now access my light settings, which the car is going to keep the headlights on for about 30 seconds as a courtesy so you can see where you're walking at nighttime. That's another thing I can change to go a little bit more. Going back to light settings, if I want to change the daytime running lights to not come on at all, I can do that here. Not recommended, but they give you the option. But a couple other features you may like. The headlight auto sensitivity. So when the headlights are in auto, I can change how sensitive they are. So they might come on a little bit earlier if I change that here, or maybe I don't want them to come on as soon. I can change that right there. Interior lights, I can have them stay on for 30 seconds, 15 or 7. So when you turn the car off, those lights will stay on to your selected time, and then they'll cut off. Some of the settings that were in the setup here are going to be more advanced, and some of them are actually only used for the technicians. But when I go back to menu, the projection is going to be accessed when I plug it in for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which is not wireless, but you'll be able to plug it in right below the system for the climate here. When I hit the audio button, I'm now opening up the audio menu where I can change the source. Of course, I can use that mode button, which is on the steering wheel. And if I want to connect the phone for the first time, I can do it right from here. I can hit the phone button, or I can press the phone button on the steering wheel. 4 cars equipped with the integrated navigation that some people call in-house navigation or dynamic navigation for the upgraded ones. When you push the map button, it's going to show you the map right here. But all other cars that are not equipped, it's going to give you this little menu. Don't be fearful of this. It's just waiting for you to plug it in for the Apple CarPlay or the Android Auto. And once you're plugged in, every time you hit this button, you will see your navigation. Now, the buttons on the right-hand side of the screen, they're a little less important. They put the important ones on the left because those are the ones you're going to touch more. But with the music, on the off chance you're listening to FM radio, I can change seek and track here. I can change the tracks on my Bluetooth as well. But why do that when I have a dedicated button on the steering wheel anyway? But to access my phone menu, which is right there, I can even access the phone menu by just hitting the phone button on the steering wheel. If I hit this button, it'll bring me to apps, which isn't anything special. It just shows you a couple of the connected services that the car has, and once they're uploaded with my account, they'll be displaying right here for full access. And there you have it. That's the full integration of your screen. Like I mentioned, the home screen is where you're going to spend most of your time. One thing I forgot to mention is that once you connect it to Bluetooth, the little phone widget down here I suggest you keep, because it's going to show you 4 little areas where you can actually set people's names and phone numbers so that you tap them real quick and it starts the phone call right away. Another thing to keep in mind is that the MID over here is going to give you the most important information, and that crucial things related to service or check engine light or things the car senses will not be displayed here. All that information is going to be in the screen in the middle. So there it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If this was useful, please let me know down below. And also, if you liked it, please give it a like. Consider subscribing for more content and tutorials. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.